let's start where I think the story starts. I will stand corrected if it starts somewhere deeper and weirder than this. But for now, as far as we understand it, the story starts in Seminole County, Florida. So Seminole County, Central Florida, Orlando metro area, northeast from there out towards the Space Coast. For reasons unknown to man, in Seminole County in the 2016 election, Seminole County voters, in their infinite wisdom, decided that they would replace their county tax collector with this young man. 31 years old at the time he was elected, no prior record of public service. And we now know from audits and investigations that he really hit the ground running as soon as he won that office in 2016 and was sworn in 2017. One little glimpse of how this is going. This guy, as I said, young man, first time in public service. He was 31 years old when he was elected. He had just been married a couple of months before he was elected. He was married in mid-2016. After he won the election in November 2016 and got sworn in early 2017, he apparently hired and started to pay with public funds 6 different people who had been part of his wedding party the previous year. I'm not sure that's how you're supposed to staff up the tax collector's office. An Orlando Sentinel investigation found that he issued $1.9 million in contracts from his office to people who were his own close friends and business partners. Again, this is the tax collector's office. A county audit later found that for some reason, within months of taking office, he also started spending public money for that office on guns and ammunition and body armor and drones. The tax collector's office in Seminole County, Florida needs drones? Okay. Also, by June 2017, so he's still only in office a few months, he proclaimed that he and his employees in the county tax collector's office would henceforth all be carrying guns. He wanted them to wear their guns at work to go along with their tax collector's office badges. This is like the office that collects license fees and stuff. This is not like some SWAT team agency with frontline Wyatt Earps out there defending the streets. But the new guy elected to that office, after hiring all his groomsmen to come in and run the place, buys all these guns and body armor and ammo and drones, tells everybody in the office they all need to wear guns at work to go along with their badges. Why did he want that? I don't know for sure. But within a few short months, he personally had pulled over a woman driving who he decided might have been speeding. But it gets better. There's also the part where while working full-time as the elected tax collector for that county, he set up a for-profit business inside the tax collector's office to do blockchain something. What was the company actually going to do? It does not matter. He set up his own private for-profit company, running it from inside the county tax collector's office. And in setting up that private for-profit company, he decided he needed $65,000 in brand new computer servers to run his new private company. And then he billed the county for those computer servers. And just to put some icing on this particular part of the cake, the audit in the county later found that he was such a genius at this stuff that when he installed those servers that he billed to the taxpayers, when he installed those servers for the private company he was going to run out of the tax collector's office, he installed them wrong and thereby set the office on fire. Ta-da! So, Seminole County, Florida, congratulations on your excellent choice for a new public official in the 2016 elections. Along the way, the Orlando Sentinel reported on his frequent anti-Muslim social media posts and his posts posing with far-right white nationalist types. He ended up posting things online about his friendship with President Trump's longtime political advisor and convicted felon, Roger Stone, who you see on the left side of your screen there, as well as the Trumpiest of all Trumpy Republican congressmen, who you see in the center there, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. But where things get rough for the Seminole County tax collector is June of last year. Federal agents come to his house to arrest him for, among other things, allegedly stalking a local man who was going to run against him for county tax collector. Yeah, how dare anyone run against him for tax collector when our hero was doing such a great job in that office? Have you seen the way they wear their guns now? To try to derail his potential opponent's campaign, the tax collector guy, according to prosecutors, arranged for a false rape accusation to be made against the man, which was then sent to the school at which the guy worked. The same allegation was then hyped and circulated by a network of fake identity social media bots and accounts, apparently controlled by a local guy from the Proud Boys and associated with Roger Stone. Prosecutors say the tax collector guy also created a fake Twitter account in the name of the guy who was running against him, and then he falsely posted things on that Twitter account in which he was claiming to be the guy running against him and also claiming to be a proud segregationist and a white supremacist. But it was all fake. It was the tax collector guy who set up this Twitter account. It was a hit job. All set up by our hero, the armed-to-the-teeth, fire-setting, wedding party hiring tax collector of Seminole County. So federal agents show up at his house last summer to arrest him on these stalking charges. And things get worse from there, because what do they find when they come to arrest him at his house? I will read it to you directly from the Orlando Sentinel at the time. Quote, the day he was indicted for stalking a political rival, Joel Greenberg had several stolen IDs in his work vehicle, a pair of fake IDs in his wallet, and materials for making more in his office. Evidence he was regularly abusing his position to steal unwitting constituents' identities, according to federal authorities. Inside the tax collector's work vehicle, agents found his backpack, which held 3 licenses from Canada, Virginia, and Florida, belonging to Seminole County residents who had recently obtained new Florida licenses. Employees of the tax collector's office told agents they'd seen Greenberg taking surrendered licenses from the agency's shred basket prior to their destruction. Do you have any idea how many things could go wrong all at once if you just elected the wrong guy tax collector of all things? Who knew what mischief could be made out of a single job like that? But that Orlando Sentinel headline about him stealing people's IDs, allegedly, through his last day in office, that ran in the Orlando Sentinel in July. By the following month, by August, federal officials had gone through the computers and electronic devices that they had seized from him during that arrest. And what they found, according to prosecutors, on those electronic devices and computers would yield even darker headlines by the following month, plus a superseding federal indictment for him. By August of last year, this was the headline in the Orlando Sentinel. Former Seminole tax collector Joel Greenberg facing sex trafficking charges? Quote, Joel Greenberg is facing sex trafficking charges related to a girl between the ages of 14 and 17, and is also accused of illegally using a state database to look up information about the girl and other people with whom he was engaged in, quote, sugar daddy relationships, according to an indictment filed Friday by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Quote, the former Seminole County tax collector used his access as an elected official to a state database to look up information about the minor victim. The database in question is the Florida Driver and Vehicle Information Database. He allegedly looked up information about the girl in that database, including her photo and her driver ID number. He also, according to the indictment, used the database to look up other people with whom he was, quote, engaged in sugar daddy relationships. That's the phrase that's used in the indictment. The Orlando Sentinel helpfully points out, quote, a sugar daddy is a term that refers to a wealthy man who dates a younger woman and gives her gifts in exchange for companionship or sex. Again, the alleged victim here is a teenage girl. Per the Orlando Sentinel, quote, Greenberg used the state database for prohibited purposes, including to produce a false identification document and to facilitate his efforts to engage in commercial sex acts. Now, the tax collector guy did quit his job after he was arrested. He has pled not guilty to all of the 14 federal charges he's now facing, including the sex trafficking of a child charges. He was out on bail after he was charged last summer, but last month, the judge overseeing his case jailed him for violating the terms of his bail. So he is now in jail, and he is scheduled to go on trial in Florida in June. So I know, happy Tuesday. Blech, this exists. I'm sorry. But now, tonight, on the front page of the New York Times, we get the national kick in the teeth that comes with this story. This is the headline tonight on the front page of the Times. Quote, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is said to be investigated over possible sexual relationship with girl age 17. Quote, Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida and a close ally of former President Donald J. Trump, is being investigated by the U.S. Justice Department over whether he had a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old and paid for her to travel with him, according to 3 people briefed on the matter. Investigators are examining whether Congressman Gaetz violated federal sex trafficking laws. A variety of federal statutes make it illegal to induce someone under the age of 18 to travel over state lines to engage in sex in exchange for money or something of value. The U.S. Justice Department regularly prosecutes such cases, and offenders often receive severe sentences. It was not clear how Congressman Gaetz met the girl, believed to be 17 at the time of encounters about 2 years ago that investigators are scrutinizing. The investigation was opened in the final months of the Trump administration under Attorney General William Barr. Given Congressman Gaetz's national profile, this is interesting, senior Justice Department officials in D.C., including some appointed by President Trump, were notified of the Gaetz investigation. 3 people familiar with the probe said the examination of Congressman Gaetz is part of a broader investigation into a political ally of his, a local official in Florida named Joel Greenberg, the Seminole County tax collector, who was indicted last summer on an array of charges, including sex trafficking of a child and financially supporting people in exchange for sex, at least one of whom was an underage girl. Mr. Greenberg, who has since resigned his post as tax collector in Seminole County, visited the White House with Congressman Gaetz in 2019, according to a photograph that Mr. Greenberg posted on Twitter.